Stiff me on my bonus. That's going to cost you. Many moons ago, 1999, I started work as a pub manager for a successful independent pub. Decent salary and even better profit-related bonus scheme. The owner had just bought an old bank with a large car park in an ideal location for a large gastropub just on the outskirts of the town center. It was in the direct footpath between the train and bus stations and the main bar area, so its footfall would be excellent. Over the course of the next 12 months I worked excessive hours running the one pub whilst helping him design and set up the new pub. It was fun and rewarding both financially and emotionally. The design of the gastropub was excellent. It was Oriental themed with an open-plan kitchen so the customers could see the chefs working in. As the owner had an Oriental GF, all the chefs were from her extended family. This point is key to the Revenge. We opened with a bang and the place was a roaring success. Far busier than we had dared to hope, and the initial new opening buzz just never died. We just kept getting busier and busier, and I was working 7 days, 80+ hours a week between the two pubs. We had to employ a second manager to run the first pub and ship even more of her extended family over to work in the kitchen. By the end of the first year my bonus was close to double my salary. In fairness to the owner, he worked more than I did and I got on really well with him. Then he screwed me over. He married his GF and she and I had never really got on very well, but she left me to do my job, whilst she mainly looked after the kitchen side of things. The owner bought a brand new top-spec Porsche and the wife got a new top-spec Merc. I bought myself a Suzuki motorbike. All was going well until it came to my yearly bonus time. I was expecting it to be a lot less than the last year. What with the additional manager and that we were no longer running so short-staffed. But it was drastically worse. By my calculations it was almost £15,000 short. Just checked. That's about £25,000 nowadays. I of course queried this with the owner. It turned out that the company had bought the Porsche and Merc as company vehicles, and that was above the line for my bonus calculation on the P&L. They'd also fudged some major capital investment expenses into the repairs line, also above the profit line. I was not happy to say the least, but since we worked so well together I thought he'd be open to sorting it out somehow, but his wife stepped in and even went as far as to say if they could have lowered my bonus even more they would have, as wasn't worth it. My personal life was in tatters and I'd been thinking about moving on anyway. All the money in the world isn't worth it. If you work so much you ruin relationships. So I handed in my notice on the spot. This suited the wife perfectly. She made me hand over my keys and said I'd get my pay in lieu of notice, owed holiday pay, etc., but I wasn't to ever set foot in either of their pubs ever again. I was barred for life. Cue the Revenge. The problem with treating someone who knows the exact ins and outs of your business with such disregard is that they know all the ways you have been breaking the law. Those chefs you brought over to work but never bothered to get visas for because it's too much trouble and too expensive. Be a crying shame if someone called immigration to let them know. Those company vehicles that were never used for company business. Be a crying shame if someone called the tax office to let them know. That fudging of the P&L to reduce the pre-tax profit? Be a crying shame if someone called the tax office with details of what to look for. Those cash-in-hand staff you employed so you didn't have to pay nix. Be a crying shame if someone called the tax office to let them know. For good measure I also rang the local AHO. I wasn't sure as I did deal with the kitchen, but I was pretty sure they were breaking some of the hygiene laws. I knew for a fact Kosh was broken as it was always the cheapest cleaning chemicals she could find. So we never had data sheets. The fallout was epic. It hit the local press and the pub was closed for almost 4 months. I have no idea how much they got fined, but it had to be far more than my bonus would have been. I don't understand why managers always think it's worth it to play hardball like this over bonuses. Think of all the things that could have been avoided if they were just decent human beings. I think P&L referred to profit and loss accounts. And NICs, or national insurance contributions, pays for the National Health Service and welfare, in case it helps anyone. Did they ever deduce it was you? Someone who knew all the skeletons in the cupboard. Well, pretty epic revenge. Last time I got shafted for a promotion, I convinced a guy in charge that his right-hand man was sleeping with his wife and he killed her then himself. Didn't work out well for me though. Shitty people learn they get away with shitty things until they are surprised. Hence the human emotion entitlement. So, you knew about all the law breaking, even the health safety issues that could have harmed customers, and were good with them, until you got screwed too. You were just as much the problem as they were. A friend of mine works for the EPA. He said 99% of their tips come from disgruntled ex-employees or ex-wives. If someone knows all of your secrets, it's in your best interest to keep them happy. Did they ever find out it was you? Also, what would you have done if they gave you the bonus you were owed? Great story, but a couple notes. Oriental should be used for things it's seen as offensive to use it to describe people. Just use Asian. Also, I'm not sure why your revenge targeted the seemingly innocent kitchen staff. I hope you didn't get those immigrants fired. That's messed up. FYI, we don't say Oriental anymore. Are there any restaurants that aren't shady and hygienic? I worked as a hostess at a restaurant in my teens. I was always polite, hardworking, never made a mistake. I worked myself to the bone for that restaurant, because I couldn't even consider pushing my work onto someone else. But, of course, I was being wildly overworked. We didn't get breaks, or food, or anything. I was once asked to work an 11-hour shift. No breaks. Obviously I refused, but I didn't really care about the size of my work. What I cared about was how I was treated. Intense verbal and emotional abuse. I kept asking it to be addressed, and it would be momentarily lessened. But soon after it would ramp up again. Then I was told I had CPTSD. I had psychotherapy appointments every Friday evening, and cleared it with my boss beforehand. I told my boss I can take any shift any day of the week, except Friday 5 o'clock, because I have trauma therapy at 4 o'clock. Guess what call I got every day at 3:30? Yup. Every week I would try and tell them I couldn't work at 5. But then they'd say I needed someone to cover me or that I was on the schedule or whatever. I didn't feel like arguing, so eventually I ended up not going back to trauma therapy so I could work. Since the pandemic, I haven't gone back there. I got my Serbian, though I believe they owe me a vacation check. I intend to go back purely for the sweet solace in not needing to take their bullshit. Part of me even wants to work one more shift so I can speak to my coworkers the way they spoke to me. But I don't really care. Here's the thing. I know everything that they did wrong. Dirty kitchen, no breaks, discrimination on mental health, etc., etc. That place could have been on Kitchen Nightmares. I could absolutely annihilate them if I chose to. But I don't like to give in to revenge without reason. So let's just hope they're nice when I visit. Side note, people are Asian, rugs are Oriental. That said, this is amazing. What a horrid woman. Dick move to screw the chefs who were responsible for nothing. You can't call Asians Oriental, dude. That's like calling black people gollywogs. Nix. Aho. Kosh.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.